Welcome back to Harmonies and Hindsights. Today we're in a very comfy place. If you're listening, you're just listening. But if you're watching, I've got a much cozier atmosphere right now. I decided not to use a mic stand and I'm just going to hold it as if we're just casually talking. I've got my bunny sweatshirt on. Super cute. And then I've got my dumpling here in the back, which are, actually two of my favorite things, bunnies and dumplings. Great. I'm just going to put dumpling right there. This is episode 4, so welcome. Last week we got to talk to our very own Carson Ezell from Bakersfield, Bakersfield's own drummer connoisseur, which is really exciting. And today, we've done some hindsights. Last year we had a hindsight episode. So today, let's get into some more harmony. I've ran my own YouTube channel for a long time, and this is a video that I've always wanted to make, but I think I felt kind of scared to make it because I feel like talking about topics like these makes it seem like I know all this stuff, so I'm just going to share it. And I really don't want it to come out that way, but songwriting is such a huge part of my life and part of the reason why I wanted to have my own segment on Mood Mixers just to talk about music and songwriting. And I feel like this is a space where I can geek out about stuff, and people who also love songwriting and all that stuff can also geek out about it. Because sometimes there's not very many places to do it. So I figure today, let's geek out on some songwriting. I'm only 22. I've been writing music since I was 12, and I think songwriting is something that anybody can do and be really good at. A huge learning curve to the craft, I think, is just finding really good techniques that work for you and learning from people that you love and working off of songs that make you happy. And anybody can songwrite. And today I'm going to share some tips that completely changed songwriting for me. I'm the first to say that you absolutely do not need to go to music school to learn about music and to love music, and learn at your own pace and find things that make you excited. But yeah, having that experience and going to music school and studying songwriting, there's a couple things I picked up that I think I'd really want to share, especially for someone who's just getting started and trying to break out of just the basic mold of writing a song and 4 lines, everything rhymes, and it just feels like you're not progressing. Then maybe this video is for you. So in final, here's what I've learned about songwriting, and you can too. I want to start with a topic that is so heavily talked about in the songwriting community, but it's one that's so important. And honestly, you can make it like a game for yourself. Recognize all of these kind of rhyming patterns. And that's advice number 1. Get really good at rhyming, but also get really good at keeping people on their toes. So in a typical song, you've got 4 lines in a verse, maybe some more in the chorus. And you've got different rhyming schemes you can follow. So there's AABB, there's ABAB, there's AX, which X meaning nothing rhymes in the line. You got XXXX, which that's a hard one, but it's good when it feels right. You've got AAAB, ABBB. Anyway, the list goes on. It's pretty much what the word of the last line is and how it lines up. So I'll give you a few examples. One of my favorite songs, Do I Ever Cross Your Mind by Chet Atkins and Dolly Parton, which, fun fact, I have the same birthday as Chet Atkins, which, not to flex on everybody, but that's totally a flex. But anyway, this is a great example of an XAXA rhyming. So the first line doesn't rhyme with anything, and you've got this A rhyme staggered. Oh, how often I wish that again I could kiss your sweet lips like I did long ago. How often I long for those 2 loving arms that once held me so gentle and close. So you've got your first and third line that end in kiss and arms, which obviously don't rhyme. And then you've got ago and close, which are close rhymes, but you've got the ago sound and the close sound. So that's an XAXA one, and that really works in this song. I'm a little worried about copyright issues, so I don't know if I can play any of these songs. Another really good one. Here's an example of an AAAX line. So you've got 3 that rhyme and 1 that's just kind of tossed there at the end. Both Sides Now by Joni Mitchell. Rows and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air and feather canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way. That's a really great example of starting a song that feels very hooky and it rhymes and there's a lot of good imagery coming from it. And then that last line is just a tag. And I feel like it keeps a song moving. Sometimes when everything rhymes, it's like you can predict what's coming next. But a good AAAX line will keep you moving and feel like you want to keep listening to this story. Another great AAAX line is Adrienne Lenker's Sadness as a Gift. Leaning on the windowsill, You could write me someday, and I think you will. We could see the sadness as a gift and still feel too heavy to hold. Again, such great writing, and also that last line makes me want to keep listening because it doesn't rhyme and it doesn't feel resolved, so you're hoping that it does. If we're going really standard, you've got A. Everything rhymes, and it feels good. When it's done right, it feels good. So we've got Lainey Wilson's Watermelon Moonshine. I love this song. Drinking watermelon moonshine, cut the burn with a little lime. Parking back in them cuts of vines. I was his, and every bit of that boy was mine. You've got moonshine, lime, vine, mine. The I sound keeps it really satisfying, again, when it's done right. And I think, especially in the country genre, it works pretty well. And then we've got a really, really good, wholesome, awesome, comforting AABB line. Brand New Key by Melanie. Rest in peace. I rode my bicycle past your window last night. It's kind of stalkerish, actually. I'd never thought about that. Okay. I rode my bicycle past your window last night. I roller skated to your door at daylight. It almost seems like you're avoiding me. I'm okay alone, but you've got something I need. So you've got night, daylight, and then you've got me, and then need. So a good AABB rhyme. I think you guys get the gist, but there's so many ways to do it. You can get so creative, and it's fun to stagger them throughout your songs. Like maybe your first verse is AABB, and then it's like ABAB, and then keep people on their toes. That's enough rhyming for the year. The next thing I learned just listening to good music and from music school, repetition means you have something catchy, but it also means giving the listener something to remember. And both of those things serve a huge purpose. I'm really bad with repetition. I think when you're like wired to write story songs, I have a really hard time like coming back to an idea because I just want to give you another idea. But sometimes it really works where like your chorus doesn't change or anything because it gives the listener something to remember. It makes it more catchy. And sometimes you just have to pick and choose the things you're going to talk about because you could, it's your life. You've experienced it and you could like go on for hours about everything you've like learned about something. But sometimes as a listener, it doesn't totally translate. Of course, there's some few exceptions in songs that like write like poetry and they just keep going. And that's my favorite kind of music. But if we're talking standard like contemporary, especially pop music, repetition really means you've got something good and the listener will thank you for it. A great example of like really basic, obvious repetition is Buckets of Rain by Bob Dylan. The first verse is buckets of rain, buckets of tears, got all them buckets coming out of my ears, buckets of moonbeams in my hand. So you just, buckets. The song's called Buckets of Rain, so you get the gist. And a really obvious example is Get Low by Dion Francis and DJ Snake. That song is completely built around repetition, and people get low to that song, Anyway, don't be afraid to repeat stuff, especially if you think it's got a good melody and a good hook and will keep, people interested and be like the hook of the song. I think this is the biggest thing I've learned. Again, I'm not an expert on any of this. These are things I've taken that I really just believe work to make you a better writer. If you think you've got a good idea, awesome. Rethink it, rewrite it again, and keep doing that until it's really the best thing you could write. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes you'll have a song and it's like the first line you wrote, you're like, that's it. I can't imagine it any different. It rolls off the tongue a certain way. It goes with the melody a certain way. There's a sense of phrasing to it. I refuse to change it. And I think when you get those. But sometimes myself, and I know other people, will write something and you're like, it's good, but it doesn't serve the song yet. And it's almost what I want to say, but not quite. And I'm not going to be lazy and leave it in the song just because maybe it sounds good. There's so many good songs to pull for this, but from a personal experience, I feel like that's always the best way to describe things. I released a song last year, last year, called Bloodline on an album called Bloodline. And that was a song that I rewrote so many times over because I felt like it was never gotten right at a certain time. And I'm so cool with that because I love how it turned out. But this song totally taught me to revisit things that you're just in your gut not quite sure is like exactly how you want it. So for fun, when I draft lyrics, I actually start a new notes page every single time because I don't like to lose ideas just in case maybe the first one was better. So for example, here's the first verse of Bloodline before I revised it and it's a song about love and family and friends. It's Carson's favorite song of mine here on Mood Mixer, and he's always so kind to tell me that he loves that song because I love that song, and I'm glad it resonates with somebody. So this is what the first verse used to be. I'll save your chair, oh, I'll keep it warm. I'll meet you by the open trees and skies turned orange. In dewdrops and moonlight, we're meeting in the sunrise. You're kind to be my friend, someone turned bloodline. I felt like the imagery was there. I thought it was like, okay, two people are in love and the things you do for the people you love, and there's all this like things that spark romance and whatever. But there were some things that stuck out, and I learned this in school, like chair and open trees and meeting in the sunrise and friend, and especially the line someone. I tried to avoid something like so generic like that, because if you're talking about someone you love, they're not just someone, of course. It's like someone who means something to you. So I knew that this needed revising. Kind of another point that goes with this and repetition is the use of alliteration. That can be so catchy. There's a reason that Sally sells seashells by the sea. Whoa. There's a reason that Sally sells seashells by the seashore is so catchy, because it obviously all starts with an S. So I thought about alliteration, and then I remember I got the line. I didn't like the line, you're kind to be my friend, someone turned bloodline. So I was like, you're kind to be my kin, which is a good synonym for friend. And then I kind of switched the line to be more specific. You're kind to be my kin, a friend turned bloodline. I got that line, and then I remember I was trying to convey this sense of love that's like vibrant and all-consuming, and I just did not get that from I'm going to save your chair, and we're going to meet in the trees and the sunrise. So here's what the final verse ended up being with some changes I made that made it more specific and detailed to me. It's, I'll save your spot, oh, I'll keep it warm. I'll meet you by the willow trees and skies burned orange. In dewdrops and moonlight, we're dancing in the sunrise. You're kind to be my kin, a friend turned bloodline. Here's some changes. I decided save your chair felt really like nonchalant, like I'll save you a chair, like you kind of mean something to me. If you're saving someone's spot, it means it's already theirs. So that's how I view that. I decided willow trees are some of my favorite trees, so I thought I'd be more specific than open trees. Skies burned orange. When you think of a sunset, it's like, okay, it's orange, but the imagery and the detail of saying it's burned orange. Dancing in the sunrise, and of course, the last line. So don't be afraid to rewrite stuff. If something doesn't feel super detailed, people love details. It's funny how the most detailed songs end up somehow being the most relatable, even though it has like nothing to do with your life, but somehow things that you can like see, smell, touch, sense are just like so much more catchy to somebody. Just to burn the alliteration thing home, another great example is Adrienne Lenker's Sadness as a Gift. In her verse, it's almost not even alliteration like in wording, but it's the sound of it. It's, you and I both know there's nothing more to say. Chance has shut her shining eyes and turned her face away. Super catchy. The chance has shut her shining eyes is super cool. It's like that sound. And I'm going on a tangent. Can you sense I'm really passionate about the subject? Because I feel like I'm feeling winded. I'm feeling winded talking about this. Here's some obvious ones. Maybe a little speed round. I always love a good speed round. If you're kind of like blanking out, change the time signature. If you write a song in 3/4, 6/8, it's like a completely different song, and it's like super like laid back sounding. 4/4, good standard. I tried writing a song in 5/4, but I'm not that musically capable to keep up with that. I have a really hard time with odd time signatures. I respect people who can write good music in odd time signatures, especially like lyric-based writing. And if that doesn't work, try other instruments. How are we doing? Are we doing good? Dumpling is still with us. Number 3, number 4, number 5. Sorry. Really good songwriting doesn't always tell you what happened or what's happening, but it makes you feel from that person's perspective. A really good example of this, I think, is You and Me on the Rock by Brandi Carlile. Through all of this writing, you just get a sense of love and longing and what it means to be with somebody that you love. I build my house up on this rock every day with you. There's nothing in that town I need after everything we've been through. Me out in my garden and you out on your walk is all the distance this poor girl can take without listening to you talk. I love this song because it paints two people and who go about their own life. And the line about her being out in her garden and her wife on her walk, it shows like two people who live very independent lives who are so intertwined with each other, and just giving you that image of two people doing their own thing but longing to be together without saying, I was like in the garden and I missed you, and so like I went inside. It's giving you the vision instead of telling you that, you know, you miss somebody after a certain amount of time. Another really great example about showing you what's happening and making you feel it instead of telling you what's happening is, of course, Isaac Opatz. I think he's like the king of doing this. He's got a song called You Don't Look at Me the Same. And what's crazy about it is it's sort of a simple topic. It's like, the death of a relationship, finding out maybe that somebody wasn't loyal to you and kind of the things that you did for this person. He paints a hell of a story without really telling you anything. It's all so detailed and personal, yet it makes it like you can absolutely imagine both of these two people. This is one of my favorite verses of all time. Using this technique, as we plunged through the potholes of West Philadelphia, I thought I might have bent my frame. The truck was fine, but after you got out, you and I never drove the same. There's something about this that is so awesome. From this, you automatically get the sense of you're with somebody, something happens and something emotionally shifts. The comparison of a physical truck going through a pothole and then how the relationship never feels the same or works the same ever again from that moment on is so well written. Later on in the song, after Philadelphia, the curtains in the windows made the truck feel more like a hearse, and the last night in Maine, kissing wine drunk in the kitchen only made me feel worse. Knowing to you, I didn't mean as much as a nightcap of human touch. Sometimes a look says more than words ever can. Sometimes it doesn't say near enough. There's such a sense of distance in this line and the specificity of being wine drunk in Maine in a kitchen and the windows on the truck that he drives feeling more like suffocating than it does being free. And I love the ending of how a look says more than words ever can, and sometimes it doesn't. And in this case, that really paints a good description of what the vibe is between these two people. Lies, maybe. Ultimately, overall, in part, show people what you mean and make them feel it instead of telling them exactly what happened. The last thing, and something that I've been spending personally a lot of time thinking about, is what imagery means in a song. That kind of ties into the last thing I was talking about, but it really is so important to use those details and the visions that you have in something that's maybe kind of mundane, just to make people feel like they're right there with you and they were experiencing it too. Don't be afraid of details. I think details really give somebody like a universal feeling. A really good example of this, you can say, oh, that's a nice full moon that's shining. The moon looks really nice reflected on the sea, and that girl came on really strong, and she was pretty, and she left me kind of sad and begging, but I never really say anything. So you could say that, or you could be Gregory Alan Isakov, write the moon song. That full-bellied moon, she's a shining on me. Yeah, she pulls on this heart like she pulls on the sea, and you came on strong like some running wave, and your beauty left me broke and hungry, left me begging to the birds for a bone or an offering, left me saying nothing like I always say. I think we just got to leave the podcast there. Again, I'm really nerding out, but if you love songwriting, you just know what that was. You can you can just feel it and not have to think about why it works. But if you're like me, you just have to know why it works. Personally, just dissecting it. Instead of saying a full moon, we all know what a full moon looks like. A full-bellied moon. You get the envision of this big beer belly, this big fat moon, and you're like, great imagery. She pulls on this heart like she pulls on the sea, the moon reflecting on the water, what? And then tying that into a metaphor of how this girl makes him feel. Running wave, beauty versus broken hungry, the line of and your beauty left me broken hungry. It's two very huge opposites, begging for an offering. Again, such just great lines. Imagery, I think, to me means finding mundane things and ways you can say them and thinking of what are other ways I can get a listener to envision what I'm seeing. That's not just basic words all the time. And again, writing songs should feel so natural. And I promise you, I don't really think about any of these things while writing a song, but the times I get stuck or saying there's a way I want to say that I don't know. Sometimes it just takes the extra thought. The last thing I think you can do, this might definitely be a hot take, but I think the last thing you can do for your art is overthink it so much and have people tell you what you should be doing. Take the things that resonate with you and work for you and just continue writing songs that make you happy. And inevitably, you're going to get better by listening to music that you love, that you think is great, and just throwing in some tactic things that will make a line better inevitably. But don't overthink it. Just keep writing music and enjoy it. If you're just starting out to write songs, or you're like me and you're just continuing to do it because you love it, it's fun to think about these things. And I wish you well writing songs. Any of the songs I mentioned, you should absolutely check out. That's some songwriting nerding out for you. I think I'm going to end this episode here. Thanks for tuning in again to Harmonies and Hindsights. I'm sure next week we'll come back for another interview, or maybe the week after. Check out more content on the Mood Mixer page. We've got a lot of different podcasts for different folks out there. Again, you can check out last week's episode with Carson Ezell. That was a really great episode if you want to learn more about music and growing up and pursuing music. And he's from Bakersfield, and I don't know many people from Bakersfield, so you can learn about someone's experience from Bakersfield. Bye. Say goodbye, Dumpling. I'm sure we'll have Dumpling back again. Fun fact, I graduated college, and this was my present to myself. $19.99 on Amazon. See you next week.